Are we live? Yes, we are. Hey, what's going on? Alright, this is going to be about the idea tool. One of the coolest tools ever. Alright, so what is it? Well, it develops, wrong one. You can develop whole compositions with it based on stuff you feed it. And depending on how much you feed it and what you feed it depends on what kind of results you're going to get. Meaning, if you want to expect good results, you're going to have to follow some guidelines, I guess. Okay, so it works based on lists of phrases, progressions, rhythms, and you feed these lists to the tracks, and it will generate or use randomly what you have listed. Okay, so before you get started, you want to kind of prepare a little bit. Typically, I work with maybe 3 tracks. I'm gonna leave it at 3 tracks, and I'm using my DAW for playback, so my audio is set up accordingly. And my DAW is on my second screen, and I'm just gonna use these 3 instruments. So track 1, track 2, and track 5 of this VST, which sounds like it sounds alright. Okay, so let's start by naming the tracks. I don't know if you knew this, but in one of my other videos, I mentioned that in the progressions, phrases, and so forth, you have this wrench, which gives you a searchable syntax to enter in for searches and so forth. Well, that is also used in the some of the text fields for Rapid Composer, like this one, curly bracket preset. It loads this name, no patch change, which is based on the preset. But we're going to use that spot. Put, caps lock. Something like that. And then this one will be strings. And this one will be 4 basses. Okay. Good enough. I'm going to do some prep work as far as the some phrases that I want to use, and I have phrase envelopes showing because I will use phrase envelopes, especially around basses and so forth. So let me make these a little bigger so we can see it, and let's save. I'm going to use that one. Override it. Yes. Okay. So, next thing you want to do is set the key and scale. I'm going to use my dissident. I'm not actually going to use it, but I'm going to load it. And that set of rules looks like this. This is from the progressions video. I just added a couple extra chords to the major scale and called it something else. Okay, so that, and that. I'm going to turn magnets on and apply the part, start from the chord. That's for in addition to the idea tool. Let's see. Thinking away. All right, let's set up the phrases now. I'm just going to use a couple. I'm going to do chord generator. I'm going to do a bass generator. I'm going to do a finger picker. Oops. There it is. Did it again. And I'm just popping these out to mess with the properties. And let's do a piano chord. It doesn't really have. Where they're on the track doesn't matter. I just wanted to. Is that all I want? No, let's do one more. Let's do an ostinato. Okay. Yeah, I think so. I think so. And okay. The ostinato, I'm gonna try something new with that in a minute. Okay, so now we got to set up the variations that I want to use. And I'm going to do it this way. You can actually add variations in the idea tool, but I like doing it this way. Alright, I have auto apply on. I want to make this one a bar. And I'm going to save this to the idea tool. I've already started this. And I'm going to call this a chord 01. And let's see what we got going here. The progression, no, it's phrases. We're working with phrases here. And idea tool. Yes, there it is. Okay, so next one I want is 3/4. And this is new as of this version 3.6.5. It persists the names and auto increment if you end the name with a number. So we want that. I want a 2/4, and I'll go ahead and add a 1/4. Okay. Sometimes I like to add like an offbeat type 4, where it hits the second and fourth, and emphasize the fourth and the 1. That's pretty cool. Okay, so next I'm gonna do bass. Alright, I'm gonna use 1 with a bass rhythm. And I'm gonna use note and octave and 1 note, and that's set correctly. And let's go up, down. Alright, we'll save that as a bass 01. And click OK. And now let's go to simple intervals. And here I'm going to mimic the chords for the bass. So I'm going to do a bar. Save, bass at 2, 3/4, save, 2, and I'm using up, down, 1 note. That's fine, that works, and so forth. And 1/4 would be like that. So I could go back. Sometimes I use 1 note, and sometimes I use 2 note connections. 2 notes really good for fast and stuff. Okay, so now that was bass. Let's move on to the finger picker. I'm going to save the first one. Call it finger 01. Click OK. And just randomize this. Do a slow. Pick. What is that? Alright, we'll just go with it. Okay, next up, piano chord. Okay. None. I'll save this one. Call it piano chord. Just a these. Let's do one of those and one of those and one of those. I think that's good enough, huh? Oh wait, we got one more. Ostinato. Alright. What's fun here is if you do a couple small ones. Like that. Alright. Let's save it. Ostinato 01. Not even playing. Now, add a couple 4 bars. 4 length. So we'll do one like that. And maybe one like that. Okay, that's enough. So, alright, now we got everything. Select all phrases. Delete. And save. Okay, now, I think we're ready. Get some ideas down. Alright, first thing we want to do, let's set the phrase envelopes. Find them. Let's bring them down a little bit. Where's this one at? There it is. Let's bring it down. This is going to be string, so keep it around 3. Somewhere's around there. Let's keep this one near C4. That one's C4. What is it? This one's probably way up here. Yes. I mumble a lot, don't I? Yeah, everything at C4. Well, actually, since this is multi-base, we need to go low. Let's go C3. All right, now let's go to the idea tool. Save what we got. All right, so let me explain this part. You're gonna have a workflow, and you're gonna fill out some properties, I guess. It's based on lists, okay? So you build a progression based on a list of progressions, and you build the phrases on a list of phrases, and it randomly will pick from those lists to build your composition. And you can control what's going on. Otherwise, it would not sound good at all. Okay, let me explain these. All right, the first one is the one I'm going to use when I start actually putting something together here. But the other ones are use existing melody track, then harmonize melody, then render other tracks. What that means is you pick what track you want to be your melody track, for instance, the piano. It would harmonize or create the chords for the progression based on the melody, and then it would render the rest of the tracks. The other one would be the opposite. It would be generate a melody, then harmonize it, create the chords, then render the tracks. All three of these will produce some really interesting results, so try them out, spend some time with it. Okay, so now I'm going to use the generate master track and independent tracks. Okay, now below that is the number of bars you want to generate, how many beats, replace the composition or add a new part, and how many lines you want to add. All right, now on the master track, this is where a lot of the magic will happen. Select scale and relative random progression from the browser for that scale. Okay, so it's going to pick well, you set the scale, the key in the scale, and then it'll randomly grab a relative progression from the browser and use it for that scale. Well, the problem with that is it's talking about everything in your browser. So you could have why is that in there? Oh, okay. Well, you could have major progressions and minor progressions, so that's not going to work if you have a major scale. Minor's not going to work in most cases. In some cases it will, some cases it won't. So that is one of the things you want to watch out for. All right, the next one is select scale and choose from a specified list of relative progressions. All right, so what that means is, remember from the introduction, the big thing with Rapid Composer is the difference between relative and absolute. Relative chords and notes use standard notation. Absolute stands for the actual named chord, like here, this is C minor, A flat, B flat, E flat. Whereas here, this is a relative progression. A 1, 1 sus2, 1 sus4, etc. So, and this is the one that I'm going to use when I start playing with this. Okay. Next one up is select scale and generate progression based on the rule. That one is really cool. I've used that before. For instance, if you have a custom set of rules, it'll create from those rules and so forth. The next one is select from specified progressions with absolute chords, then find scale. So what it's going to do is, if for all your absolute, turn them off here, it could be this one, and the scale would probably be the first chord in the progression, so the scale would be E flat, and so forth. But you would select the scale. Yeah, you would pick the scale. Oh, yeah, all right, for that scale. Okay, yeah. I'm right. I read it wrong. You pick the scale or the key, and then it will find one that works. Select random progression with absolute chords, which is then find a scale. All right, so it's going to pick a random one at that time. This is for using the Roman numerals for the chords, or if it's off, it'll generate absolute chords and automatically transpose. I'm going to leave that off and so forth. All right, so I'm going to use the second one. And what you do is, if you have a box like this, where, like this, you just click inside the box and you can get the correct browser. Okay, so I'm going to use, let me collapse all. I'm going to use stuff from my, oh, I got them off. Alright, so what I did was at the bottom, I clicked major relative, so that lists all my relatives in this area I want. Now, for the phrases, rhythms, and variations, you can drag and drop to those, but for progressions, it doesn't work. It's not a drop target. You get that error. So what you do is click Shift Select, and then click the Add button. Okay. So now if I close this and I hit the lightning bolt on the track, which will generate that progression, and it's a 12-bar progression, and I have it set to 4. So if I hit generate, it's only going to generate 4. So I'm going to make it 12. So if I hit that, it'll generate the progression. And notice the arrows, because I don't have anything else set up for phrases. All right, so moving on, let's work with phrases. All right, so remember when I set everything up, let me close this and then do it this way. All right, so for my piano track, I'm gonna put these piano chords, and these will drag and drop. Well, actually, I only dragged one, so let's do it this way instead. Add selection. All right, I'm not going to use any rhythms, but it works the same. You pick what rhythms you want to use. There's all kinds of cool tricks with rhythms you could do. I like matching rhythms for other parts, and sometimes I'll throw in syncopated kind of rhythms for one part and so forth. But I'm not going to do that. And variations as well. You can add variations like that by clicking in here at the box, or you can just click add, and we get this style add. And depending on what I want to do, sometimes I'll add track variations as well. Oh, speaking of track variation, well, I'm going to go ahead and do that right now, because one of the things I like doing for all of them is put a velocity range and leave it default, because that gives it a better sound. And I can turn it on and off to show you the difference. Okay, so let's do strings. Strings are going to be either one of the chords. No, actually chord 1. That was the bar. Yeah, so. And what I'll do is I'll add on the strings a variation of join notes. And, oops, didn't want to do that. Do not join. Yeah. All right, we'll leave it like that. So, let's generate that one. Did it? It's not generating. Oh, yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. Okay. We don't have the magnets on. That's why. Okay. So, back up to here before I add anything else. All right, so you have a list of the phrases, and you can resize that if you want, as long as it's not filling up the workspace. But you have use to. What that means is use two phrases. Okay, and if you look here for arrangement, you get A, B, A, B, and so forth. What that means is the first phrase in the list is considered A, this would be B, this is C, and D. So if you use all four, you have A, B, C, D. And this tells you how it's going to place on the compositions. So if you have an A, B, A, C, A, D, it would do the first phrase, the second phrase, first phrase again, and so forth, and do it in that order. What I like doing is just pick a random preset. So if I do that, and there they are. Uh-oh, we got a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Alright. So I don't know why that did that. That happened before. That might be a bug. So you guys saw me fix that, or set that as. Now let's try it. Oops. Stop that. Now where are you? There you are. Alright. And let's set the magnet. Okay, now we'll turn the magnet on and we'll go average. And when you change a setting, you have to regenerate. So like I set the magnet, it's not going to set the magnet. If you want to set the magnet without regenerating, go to your track and go here and go to your magnets. and set it here. Go average height and then click, and it'll fix it. So let's solo that. Alright, well, whatever. Sounds kind of mechanical to me. So, what else could we put on there? What was that? Piano chord? We could try the finger. I don't know if the finger's gonna do the same thing that the piano chord did. Let's try that. We got 4. So we got 8. Let's go ahead and bump that up to 8. Random preset. And then regenerate. And then you can listen again. Okay, now let's put it in perspective with strings. Not bad, not bad. Okay, let's take these off solo, and now let's work on the bass. So we have basses. I'm going to throw these on. Add selection. Generate. Let's see what that did. Just solo that. Wow. Does that sound good? I don't know. Huh. How about that? Alright, wait. Let's try channel 5. That's on channel 3, I think, right? Channel 3. Yeah, let's go to 5. Okay, check it out. Just to show you the difference. But this is with velocity range. Okay, and this is without. So using velocity range gives it a little more human feel. Okay, so save that. Looking good, sounding good. Okay, so next up, like I said, you can do this with the rhythms and variations as well. One thing I like maybe doing, maybe piano. Let's do that. I'm gonna put it in like this. I'm gonna put maybe add an interval, mute. And I'm gonna I like lows, so I'm gonna go low 5th. And now solo it. Yeah, soloed. That deep, dark. Yeah, and I could put drums to this for sure, but I'm falling apart. But I usually wait till the end. Hold on, I gotta fix stuff. Hold on, I gotta mute the mic for a second. Alright, and clear my throat. I don't want to stop the video, edit, and all that. Okay, so sounded good. Now this is cool. This is a little trick I figured out. Okay, so we got 12 bars, and we're generating 12 bars. In fact, if I do it again, generate a new part. So anything I generate sounds good. I hit the generate bar. Okay, so we got a 1-to-1 ratio right now. We got 1 bar, 1 chord per bar. If you drop this down and hit regenerate, now you're squeezing 12 bars into the scope of 10 bars. So watch what happens. It shortens the phrase, the chords, and it, you know, kind of makes it fit. So now it sounds like this. That's just one random version. Let's see. Yeah, here's another random version. So you can even go, I'm gonna go 8, see what happens. That's so much fun. So anyway, this is it. Now I have just given you the keys to the galaxy, more or less, because you're going to open a wormhole up for sure. Just keep an eye on your watch. I don't think that's... well, I think that's everything. I don't know if I missed anything, but man, oh man, you can have so much fun with this. I know I do. So all right, well, venture off, and man, yeah, if you come up with something cool, post it in the users song section. You know, we love hearing this stuff. And so until then, adios.